clerk has advised me that we have a quorum, and I'll call meeting number 50 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills, Social Development, and the Status of Persons with Disability to order. Excuse me. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of June 23, 2022, and therefore members are attending in person and remotely using the Zoom application. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and members. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. For those participating virtually, please use the raised hand function. Before speaking, click on the microphone icon to activate your own mic. When you're done speaking, please return to mute. Those in the room, the mic will be monitored by the proceedings and verification officer. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order. You may speak in the official language of your choice, and interpretation services are available for this meeting. For those participating by video conference, you have the choice of either floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece. Unless there is exceptional circumstances, and they would be exceptional, I would not recognize those appearing virtually unless they have a House of Commons approved headset to participate in the meeting. They could participate in the voting, of course. I would like to also remind members that screenshots are not permitted. Should there be any difficulty with the interpretation translation during the meeting, please get my attention. We'll suspend while it's being rectified. I would also like to remind members and witnesses to speak slowly, as we do have sign language interpretation for this meeting, and they would appreciate if you could speak slowly. Pursuant to the order of reference of Tuesday, October the 18th, 2022, the committee will resume its consideration of Bill C-22, Canada Disability Benefit Act. Before we continue clause by clause consideration, I would like, I've already reviewed that, as the name indicates, this is an exception of all, this is an examination of all the clauses in the order in which they appear in the bill. I will call each clause successively, and each clause is subject to debate and a vote. If there are amendments to the clause in question, I will recognize the member proposing it, who may explain it. The amendment will then be open for debate. When no further members wish to participate in the debate, the amendment will be voted on. Amendments will be considered in the order in which they appear in the bill or in the package each member received from the clerk. Members should note that amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk of the committee. As chair, I will go slowly to allow members to participate fully in the proceedings. Amendments have been given an alphanumeric number in the top right corner to indicate which party submitted them. There is no need for a seconder to move an amendment. Once moved, you will need unanimous consent to withdraw it. During debate on an amendment, members are permitted to move sub-amendments. These sub-amendments must be submitted in writing. They do not require the approval of the mover of the amendment. Only one sub-amendment may be considered at a time, and that sub-amendment cannot be amendment. When a sub-amendment is moved to an amendment, it is voted on first. Then another sub-amendment may be moved, or the committee may consider the main amendment and vote on it. Once every clause has been voted on, the committee will vote on the title and the bill itself, and in order to reprint the bill may be required if amendments are adopted so that the House has a proper copy for use at report stage. Finally, the committee will have to order the chair to report the bill to the House. The report contains only the text of any adopted amendments as well as an indication of any deleted clauses. I would like to welcome back from the Department of Employment and Social Development, and I would ask both of these witnesses to introduce themselves to the committee.
Hi, I'm Krista Wilcox, and I'm the Director General of the Office for Disability Issues.
Hi, I'm Mosumi Banerjee, and I'm the Director of Policy in the Office for Disability Issues.
Thank you. And Madame Chabot?
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chairman, I have a request that I will leave it to your discretion, of course, as a good union member. And because we're in a 3-hour block for our physical and mental health, would it be possible to have a brief break in the middle of the meeting? Thank you.
Of course, Madame Chabot. We can accommodate that. Before we begin going back to clause-by-clause review, Madame Wilcox has information to an answer that was requested by Madame Cirillo as the meeting was closing on Monday. So, Madame Wilcox, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Madame Cirillo had asked with regards to Clause 9D, and which is about the ability to garnish the Canada Disability Benefit for the purposes of the Family Orders and Agreements Enforcement Assistance Act, if there had a greater impact on women and what the gender-based analysis of that was. I didn't have the numbers at the time, but I can report back to you that as identified in the 2015-2016 survey of maintenance enforcement programs conducted by Statistics Canada, in almost all families, which is about 96%, the recipient of support in these cases is female. From a gender lens perspective, allowing the Canada Disability Benefit to be garnished for the purposes of outstanding debts under family support orders would disproportionately benefit women and their children who may be the former partners of men with disabilities.
Appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have any interpretation.
It's weird.
Absolutely. Is the translation working now? Ça fonctionne? No?
Is it working now?
With respect to the question that Madame Cirillo asked on Clause 9D and the ability to garnish the Canada Disability Benefit for the purposes of the Family Orders and Agreement Enforcement Assistance Act, she asked whether this had a greater impact on women and what the gender-based analysis of this clause was. Clause 9, as identified in the 2015-2016 survey of maintenance enforcement programs conducted by Statistics Canada, in almost all families, that's approximately 96%, the recipient of the support in these instances is female. From a gender lens perspective, allowing the Canada Disability Benefit to be garnished for the purposes of outstanding debts under family support orders, it would disproportionately benefit women and their children who may be the former partners of men with disabilities in receipt of the benefit.
Thank you, Ms. Wilcox. Before we begin, we will resume with clause-by-clause review at 11.1. We were in discussions on NDP 5. There was a sub-amendment made by Madame Chabot, which was under discussion. When we conclude 11.1, we will then return to suspended clause 9. Okay? So we were in discussion on the sub-amendment of Madame Chabot on NDP 5. Madame Chabot.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to tell my colleagues, members of the committee, that the objective that is fundamental to me in this sub-amendment is to ensure that, and also that the groups listening to us, I know we received a letter from 29 groups telling us that through the Blocs sub-amendment to the NDP's amendment could harm the it could cause a delay indeed to. So this isn't a question of confidence. It has nothing to do with that. We're also convinced that the current minister is resolute in wanting to make this a reality. But the bill, as tabled, will set in stone through the regulations the criteria for eligibility, the conditions, and the amount of the benefit. So this is unheard of, and I'll give you some examples. If we want the Canadian benefit for persons with disabilities become statutory, it's important that the House of Commons and Parliament have its word to say on it. Otherwise, there's no guarantee. Through regulations, anyone can decide, and I know that I'm giving an extreme example, but they could make it $25 a month. Another government could just say, well, we're not going to have this benefit anymore. So it has no scope because the House of Commons and parliamentarians will not have made it legal and created this obligation, this duty to have this benefit. The bill doesn't create that. It authorizes the governor and council to create a regulation, to make regulations. And so I'm giving examples. We would never have thought that old age security would be determined through regulation, and that old age pensions would, and that the Canada Child Benefit would be created through regulations. They're in the law, and that is the goal of this sub-amendment, because the NDP's amendment provides for a process of reporting, but it doesn't provide what is in the sub-amendment. I think it will contribute greatly to the NDP 5. The only way to guarantee that this benefit will exist and that it will remain in existence over time is that the House of Commons pronounce itself on this benefit. It cuts into the whole principle of nothing without us. People want us to contribute to this part of the regulation, and unfortunately we won't need a law for 11.1 because there are a lot of problems, but the first three are fundamental. And if we want to ensure that we're going to create this benefit, I think that it needs the approval of parliamentarians, and the objective of the sub-amendment is indeed to make this benefit and this law long-lasting and guaranteed above all. Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Discussion on the sub-amendment of Madame Chabot. Seeing none, then, Madam Clerk, I'm going to call for a vote on the sub-amendment. And to be clear, is everybody clear on the sub-amendment they will be voting on? I see nodding, so we're clear. Okay. Madam Clerk, we call the vote, a recorded vote on the sub-amendment of Madame Chabot.
Mr. Long.
No.
Madame Martinez-Ferrada.
No.
Mr. Collins.
No.
Mr. Kuzmierczak.
No.
Mr. Van Bynen.
No.
Ms. Gray.
Abstain.
Ms. Falk. Can you repeat that, Ms. Falk?
No, Ms.
I believe
Falk,
you're
we're-
muted.
yeah,
There
we're
might
not
be a
there.
mute button on your cord right there to unmute yourself.
Ms. Falk, give a thumbs up,
On your
down,
headset.
or either if you want to abstain. Okay, so you're abstaining.
Abstain.
Correct? Okay. Okay.
Ms. Ferrari.
Abstain.
Mr. Aitchison.
Abstain.
Madame Chabot.
Or.
Ms. Cirillo.
No.
That's 1 yay, 6 nays.
So the sub-amendment is defeated. We'll return to the to NDP 5. Any further discussion on NDP 5? Madame Zarrillo.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to just make some comments on NDP 5, and I actually wanted to ask my colleagues if they would consider a unanimous consent motion to have me remove this one. I did have a lot of conversations with the community over the last few days, the back end of last week, and I'd like to have it considered later. I have another amendment coming later that I think will cover what needs to be done. So I'm going to ask for unanimous consent of my colleagues to pull this one and to look at some ones further down. And I think this is one of the issues around not having full transparency to the community, is that they don't have access to all of the amendments that are coming. So I don't know if that's something that we could do ahead of time, because I didn't feel that I could even talk about amendments that haven't yet been tabled. Thank you.
Does Madame Zarrillo have unanimous consent to withdraw NDP 5 under Clause 11.1? I'm seeing nods of yes. Those on virtual, would you nod your head if you're in agreement to give unanimous consent? We have unanimous consent in the room. Okay, Madame Zarrillo, then Madam Clerk, would you record? The committee received unanimous consent for NDP 5 to be withdrawn. So we will now move to BQ1. Am I right? Yeah. BQ1. Madame Chabot, do you want to speak to your amendment?
Là, on est sur BQ1.
We're on BQ1 now? Okay. Well, essentially, BQ1 takes up the idea that the minister must table before the House any proposed regulations that the government intends to make, particularly for the 3 first paragraphs or subparagraphs A to C of 11. So the eligibility criteria, conditions that are to be met in order to receive the benefit, and the amount of the benefit. And then you have the number of days. And at 3, the same wording as the sub-amendment that we had tabled to after NDP 5. So I think that I will repeat the same arguments that I made earlier. It's because of transparency and obligations or requirements. This is a proposed amendment that it must go through the House of Commons to ensure its sustainability.
Discussion on BQ1. Seeing no discussion, I shall call a vote on BQ1. Madam Clerk, all those, we'll start with all those for. Is that right? You call the vote.
The vote is on BQ1. Mr. Long.
Against?
Madame Martinez Ferrara.
Contre.
Mr. Collins.
Opposed.
Mr. Kazmierczak.
Opposed.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Opposed.
Ms. Gray.
Abstain.
Ms. Falk.
Abstain.
Ms. Ferreri.
Abstain.
Mr. Aitchison.
Abstain.
Madame Chabot.
Pour.
In favor?
Against.
That's 1 yay, 6 nays.
BQ1 is defeated. We will now move to CPC2. Ms. Gray, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move the following amendment. That Bill C-22 be amended by adding after line 3 on page 6, the following new clause. Quote, report, this is in 11.1, within 10 months after the day on which this act comes into force, the minister must cause to be tabled in each House of Parliament a report setting out proposed amendments to this act that would, among other things, specifically specify the eligibility criteria for a Canada Disability Benefit, the conditions that are to be met in order to receive or continue to receive the benefit, and the amount of the benefit or method for determining the amount. That is the entirety of the motion. And so the intention of this is to put a timeline. We heard a lot in testimony, both in written and with people who testified, that there was a lot of concern with not having any timeline. So this does put a timeline, and it is a reasonable timeline as well, based on testimony that we heard both from the minister and officials. It's not far out of potential timelines that they gave. It's a little tighter than what they had said, but it definitely does put the ministry into a place where they have to work to, bring this to resolution within a time frame. And we do have to remember as well that the exact same legislation was tabled well over a year ago. We understand there's been lots of consultations already, and so this is why we're bringing this forth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, it is a clear amendment. Madam Clerk, I would call a vote then on CPC 2 as articulated by Ms. Gray.
So the vote is on CPC 2. Mr. Long.
No.
Madam Martinez Ferrara.
No.
Mr. Collins.
Opposed.
Mr. Kazmarchak.
Opposed.
Mr. Van Bynen. Ms. Gray.
In favor?
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferrari.
Support.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
For.
Ms. Cirillo.
Nope.
That's 5 yeas, 6 nays.
CPC Amendment number 2 is defeated. We'll move to NDP 6. Madame Zarello, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is in relation to a midpoint check-in. So, today we were voting on some timelines and some potential pushes for regulations. And I guess what I heard last week from the community, and again, even at the beginning of this week, was that they want to have the most amount of input and co-creation on this bill. But at the same time, I do want this government to be accountable that the work that they're doing is living up to those expectations. So this is what this amendment here is, NDP 6, is the opportunity to ensure that the community, the disability community, who's been working on this for many years, has influence, but that also we have some accountability to the government that they're moving it along in a timely manner. So I will move the NDP 6, which is that Bill C-22 be amended by adding after line 3 on page 6 of the following new clause, and it's titled Progress Report 1111. Within 6 months after the day on which this act comes into force, the minister must table in the House of Commons a report that sets out the manner in which the obligation to engage and collaborate with the disability community in relation to the development of regulations has been implemented. And for further transparency, the report must be published on the website of the Department of Employment and Social Development, and that is for further transparency, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Zarello, discussion. Mr. Van Buyen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, first I want to thank Ms. Zarello for putting a timeline in that holds the government accountable and makes them report the engagement that we've heard was so critical. So I want to thank her for that. I would like to strengthen it somewhat if the committee agrees, and I'd like to make a sub-amendment, quotation marks, tabling, and following paragraph 11.11, I'd like to add tabling, and then within 1 year after the day on which the act becomes into force, the minister must cause to be tabled in each House of Parliament a report on the progress made in the regulatory process. And following clause, which would be the report stands referred to the committee of each House that may be designated or established for the purposes of receiving the report. And that is my sub-amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that prepared? Okay. Discussion will move to the sub-amendment. Any discussion on the sub-amendment? Ms. Gray, on the sub-amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we would need that in writing.
Okay. We will need it in writing. I assume, Mr. Van Buyen, you were reading from a prepared document.
Yes.
Could we get that and submitted to the members P9? Okay.
Can we suspend, Chair, just for 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll suspend for a couple of minutes while we get the sub-amendment circulated to the committee members. You still don't have it, Ms. Gray? Okay, we'll wait then. Never mind. legislation, you have before you a sub-amendment to NDP 6. So the discussion is now on the sub-amendment of Mr. Van Bynen. Ms. Gray, you have the floor.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just, of course, speaking to the sub-amendment, this basically is meaning that the government doesn't have obligation to meet any kind of timeline. It's strictly a progress report. So the government is not committing to any type of timelines here, and so that's what they're looking to interject. And so, so that's concerning, that, especially considering that when we had testimony from the minister and from officials, that they said, well, maybe around a year is likely to where it would be. And now this is making it sound like, well, it's going to be even considerably longer than that. So, again, why they've had a year to more than a year to work on this, because the legislation has been exactly the same as the previous legislation, and we heard that they were even consulting before the original legislation, and so now it's looking at punting it way further down the line, and so it's very non-committal, and it's sort of surprising that the government's not committing to something stronger in this legislation. They say out in their public statements that they're wanting to provide people with disabilities, and they're wanting to be helpful, and they make lots of really great statements and press releases, but yet the actions, and we can see it right here, don't reflect that. They don't reflect anywhere near the timeline, excuse me, that the government is talking about. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the sub-amendment of Mr. Van Bynen? Madame Cirillo on the sub-amendment, and then Madame Chabot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, I hear the concerns of the member, and I think, later in this meeting, I'm going to have a motion that I'm going to bring forward that I feel addresses that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Cirillo. Madame Chabot on the sub-amendment of Mr. Van Bynen.
Look, Mr. Chairman, this will be an opportunity for me to say I'm disappointed, not for the government having put forward this benefit. We in the House were all supportive of this, but my concern is that we have a bill that has a blank page that gives no guarantees. So the amendment that's been moved is that we're going to talk about it again in the House, and that then we'll come back to the committee a year later. So in the process, what will that change? Either that the regulation will already be passed, good, or we'll have a progress report, but it won't change anything. It will be a most unusual situation nevertheless. It will be all in the regulations, and it won't be a benefit that will really be for people with disabilities, and the long term will not be decided for them by Parliament. So it won't change anything. It's just having a good conscience looking at an amendment like this.
Check on the sub-amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I see things differently. I see both Madame Cirillo and Mr. Van Bynen's amendments as really strengthening this bill. Excellent work, and what I see it doing, both of the amendment and the sub-amendment, is really adding and building additional confidence into the process. It would include two really important checkpoints. The first would be on a pulse check within 6 months of the consultations beginning. Government would have to report back to talk about how those consultations are progressing. I think that's absolutely important to make sure that those consultations are progressing as the community wants them to, and it's an opportunity also to course correct if required. And then Mr. Van Bynen's amendment as well too Again, the government must report back on all the regulations that were brought forward or introduced up until that point. This provides that balance. It provides two of those checkpoints, but also balancing it against what we heard from the disability community very clearly, that we need to make sure we bring people, Canadians, into pay as quickly as possible because we understand the urgency. I believe that this amendment strikes that balance. It's about oversight. It's about transparency. And I would also add that it does introduce two very clear timelines, 6 months on the consultations and within 1 year in terms of the regulations. The timelines are there for all to see. And so, again, I commend my colleagues for bringing these amendments forward, and absolutely will be supporting those, both the sub-amendment and the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madame Chabot on the sub-amendment.
I just want to say that since the beginning of this process, we've seen the government's attitude on this, and now, of course, we've abandoned the idea of a sub-amendment and the amendment proposed by the NDP 5. She decided to drop that. That was her choice. And now she's proposed something that everyone seems to support, but I'd like to say that it won't change anything to the regulatory process at 11.1.
Thank you, Madame Chabot. Seeing no further discussions, Clerk, call a vote on the sub-amendment of NDP 6, sub-amendment of Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Long.
Support.
Madame Martinez-Ferrara.
Oui.
Mr. Collins.
In favor.
Mr. Kazmierczak.
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Support.
Ms. Gray.
No.
Ms. Falk.
No.
Ms. Ferreri.
No.
Mr. Aitchison.
No.
Madame Chabot.
Abstention.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
That's 6 yeas, 4 nays.
Sub-amendment on NDP 6 is carried. We'll go to the vote on NDP 6 as amended. Madame Gray, you wanted to speak to it? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it would have been great to have had both this and also the Conservative amendment that was just voted down. They could have both paired together, where this one, asks for, progress report, and then as in 6 months, and then as of 10 months, you actually have the regulations. So this is considerably weaker, but I guess if this is all that we have, we'll support this. If at least it's better than nothing, but it's certainly not as strong as we would have liked.
Okay, seeing no further discussion. The musical interlude was nice. Madam Clerk, we will vote on NDP 6 as amended.
Mr. Long.
Word.
Madame Martinez-Ferrara.
Pour.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Kazmierczak.
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Support.
Ms. Gray.
Support.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferreri.
Support.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
Oui.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
Can you repeat that?
Yes.
That's 11 yeas, 0 nays.
NDP 6 as amended was carried. Now, committee members, as I indicated, will return to the suspended clause. Oh, sorry. Okay, we still have one. Right. Sorry, guys, cut you quickly. We'll now move to, there were too many nines, PV9, and this is deemed moved. So, Mr. Morse, it's your amendment. You wish to speak to it?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start by reading PV9 into the record, that Bill C-22 be amended by adding after line 3 on page 6 the following new clause. 11.1, the minister must provide persons with disabilities from a range of backgrounds with meaningful and barrier-free opportunities to collaborate in the development and design of the regulations, including regulations that provide for the application process, eligibility criteria, the amount of a benefit, and the appeal process. I'll note, given the recently passed amendment of NDP 6, this would likely be 11.2 in the amended bill if this were to pass. And this is what we heard from so many folks across the disability community, calling for the principle of nothing without us to be baked into the bill, and specifically to ensure that people with disabilities across the country are involved meaningfully in the regulatory process. In particular, we saw this in briefs from March of Dimes Canada, from Disability Without Poverty, from Maytree, Planned Lifetime Advocacy Network, and Plan Institute. Thank you.
Mr. Morris, do a discussion now on PV9. Ms. Gray, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's very important to have people with disabilities, as this does say, from a range of backgrounds, to have meaningful opportunities in order to be able to have their voices heard. And it does add to co-creation as well, which we heard a lot about in testimony. So we can support this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, I will ask you to call a vote on PV9.
Mr. Long.
Support.
Madame Martinez-Ferrada.
Oui.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzmiarchuk.
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Yes.
Ms. Gray.
Yes.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferrari.
Yes.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
Oui.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yeah.
That's 11 yeas, 0 nays.
PV9 is carried unanimously. Now, we will return to clause 9 that was suspended. There was a general discussion on that. We had not proceeded beyond CPC 1. Am I right, Madam Clerk? Yeah, the discussion was on the amendment CPC 1. So I will open the floor to discussion on CPC 1. Before I do, there was some discussion last time we met. I asked the clerk to reach out so that committee members are aware. When any member of the committee reaches out to legislative drafting, do I have the right terminology? The legislative drafting, the legislative council, to prepare amendments. When they are, then they have a client solicitor confidentiality between the member and that branch of government, as well. The department uses Department of Justice legal counsel, as well as department, to provide advice on the drafting of the bill. So what you have before you is the department's legal phrasing that has been amendment proposed by Ms. Gray. So committee members will have to choose on supporting an amendment or supporting the original draft of the section of the bill. I'll now open the floor to discussion. Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think if it's all right, I'll just read it again so that everyone's clear what we're referencing. So that Bill C-22 in Clause 9 be amended by adding after line 25 on page 3 the following: C dash or C.1 cannot be recovered in whole or in part under any act of Parliament other than this act and then it continues on. And so just as a reminder, the premise of this was that we had heard a lot of testimony about concerns about clawbacks. And this is referencing, I know that in the conversations that happened here at the last committee, there was a lot of conversations around provincial governments. This is strictly within the federal, federal programs. Anything that would be provincial would have to be negotiated, so that is out of the context of this. That would have to be negotiated between the government and the provinces. So this is strictly within federal programs, which is also very important. I'll also note that in what is called, so in this, it would prevent, one of the concerns was around garnishing of wages, and but Section 9D in the bill itself says it can be garnished for that reason, so it really doesn't apply to this. That's already covered. I will mention as well that when we went to the legal in order to draft this, this is what they came back with. And the word, a lot of people had questions around the word recovered. The word recovered is in another part of the bill, so it is a term that is used. It's maybe not a word that each of us would use in normal conversation, but again, it was legal that came back with this specific wording in order to address this. So even though we heard concerns around what it might be, that was the rationale. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion on CPC1 in Clause 9? Seeing none, then, Madam Clerk, I will ask you to call a vote on CPC1.
Mr. Long.
No.
Madame Martinez Ferrara.
No.
Mr. Collins.
Opposed.
Mr. Kazmierczak.
Opposed.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Opposed.
Ms. Gray.
Yes.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferrari.
Yes.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
Oui.
Ms. Cirillo.
Opposed.
That's 5 yeas, 6 nays.
CPC1 is defeated. We'll now move to PV5. This amendment is deemed moved pursuant to the motion. Mr. Morris, you wish to speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PV5 sought to do similar to what we just saw from CPC1 in terms of addressing clawbacks, but on further review and discussion, realized that what we're looking to do isn't possible, and so I'd like to withdraw the amendment.
We still need unanimous consent. We need unanimous consent to withdraw PV5 as requested by the mover. Do I see unanimous consent to withdraw PV5? Madam Clerk, so we have unanimous consent to withdraw PV5. So then, shall Clause 9 carry? Carried. Thank you, Committee. We'll now move to Clause 12. Clause 12 begins with CPC 3. Madam Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to move the following amendment, and I'll read it here, that Bill C-22 in Clause 12 be amended by replacing lines 4 and 5 on page 6 with the following, and in 12. As soon as feasible, after the first anniversary of the day on which this section comes into force, and after the third anniversary of that day, and after each. And really what this is doing is it's tightening up the timeline for reviews to be had so that we can see what is working, and it also allows parliamentarians in order to be involved in that process. So it's reducing the timelines than what is already in the legislation. Thank you.
Before we begin discussion, and to committee members, if CPC 3 is adopted, PV 10 and NDP 7 cannot be moved as they amend the same line. So the amendment, if CPC 3, you've all heard it, discussion on Mr. Kuzmarchek on CPC 3.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say very much appreciated MP Gray bringing this amendment forward. It absolutely strengthens this process, adds an additional layer of review, an additional layer of transparency and accountability, and more than that, it reduces the timeline, shortens the timeline for that accountability. Very much strengthens this bill, adds confidence to what we're trying to do here, and we will be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on CPC 3? Madame Zarrillo?
I too wanted to thank the member for the amendment, and I want to express how difficult it has been for all of the members of this committee on the opposition side to do that balance between wanting to advance this work as quickly as possible to get the support to people and to have oversight. So I really appreciate this, and I just want to acknowledge that, it's a lot of hard work involved. Thank you.
Any further discussion on CPC 3? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, I would ask you to call. Did I miss something?
Is the agreement for the members? I think it's agreement with the members. Just make sure there's agreement if you don't do the vote.
Okay. Do I sense unanimous agreement on CPC 3? For the two appearing on screen, could you nod your head to give us we have unanimous consent in the room? Okay. CPC 3 is carried unanimously. That negates PV 10 and NDP 7. Shall clause 12 carry as amended? Carried? Carried. We'll now move to clause 14. Clause? Shall clause 13 carry? Clause 13 is carried. We'll now move to clause 14, and we have an amendment. NDP 8, Madame Zarrillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it looks like we are coming quickly to the end, so I am going to just read the amendment that Bill C-22 in Clause 14 be amended by replacing line 18 and 19 on page 6 with the following. Under 14, this act comes into force on the first anniversary of the day on which it receives royal assent. And that is the only quote, but I will say that I am expecting that the government moves this as quickly as they can through to royal assent. Thank you.
Before we get to that, if NDP 8 is adopted, PV 11 and Liberal 2 cannot be moved as they amend the same line. Now we'll open to discussion with Mr. Long, then Madame Chabot on NDP 8.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to MP Zarrillo. I just want to thank MP Cirillo for the work she's done on this. I know she's very passionate about this. I think that this amendment hits the mark, and we can certainly support it.
Madame Chabot? Madame Chabot, you requested?
Oui, mais je comprends.
Yes. I understand that means 2023, if it was passed in 2022. So I thought the Liberals were proposing 2024. But a bill, that we should have the deadline as soon as possible in the hopes that it will be to everyone's satisfaction and up to people's expectations, because nothing's really changed in the substance of the bill. It will remain a regulation upon which we have no control. So 2023, why not? If that gives the illusion of strengthening things, then that's fine. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have liked to have seen something sooner, but based on other votes that we had earlier, I guess this is as good as we can get, but it certainly would have been better to have a timeline that would have been sooner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you, yes, Mr. Morris, do you want to comment?
Just a suggestion for the committee, if the current amendment specifies it comes into force on the first anniversary, I wonder if there's a member of the committee who would entertain an amendment to have it say no later than the first anniversary in case it might be done sooner.
I don't see anybody. We'll suspend for a couple of minutes. be suspended at the request of Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to thank Mr. Morris for the suggestion. And after consideration, I would like to move a sub-amendment to this amendment, and it's very brief. So I would, it would be to remove the word "on" and replace it with "no later than." So just to reiterate, I'll just maybe read that sentence just so that everyone's clear. This act I'll read what it says now, and then I'll read what I recommend it being changed to. I'll read it slowly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So right now, this part of this amendment reads, "This act comes into force on the first anniversary of the day on which it receives royal assent." And with my sub-amendment, it would then read, if it goes through, "This act comes into force no later than the first anniversary of the day on which it receives royal assent."
All committee
So,
members?
Mr. Chair, sorry, I just realized I think I had said to remove the word "on," but I would have to remove the word "on" and the word "the" in order for it to be grammatically
Okay, so that we're clear. Let's go back again,
Right.
then, Ms. Gray, and read it again. Would you read it again?
Sure thing. So my sub-amendment would read to remove the words "on," "the," and replace them with "no later than." Oh, on the, no later than the. Oh, no, I guess no, that's wrong. Yeah. Okay, just forget what I just said. Just go back to the word "the" does make sense, doesn't it? Okay.
Keep the "the."
I do need the word "the." My apologies. So again, I would just remove the word "on" and replace it with "no later than."
So we're okay?
And I thank
okay.
the clerk for that, for catching that.
And the clerk is the unbiased referee here. So, Madame Zarillo, you had your hand up?
I did. And, I think this is an excellent demonstration of how collaboration can really work. And I think that this is a good change. And again, I'll reiterate my words that I expect the government to move this as quickly as they can. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Everybody clear now? Members, on the sub-amendment, on this one, I will call a vote on the sub-amendment to NDP 8. Do we have unanimous consent on the sub-amendment? Madame Chabot? Oui? Okay, so proceed. So the sub-amendment of Ms. Gray to NDP 8, we have unanimous consent, so the sub-amendment is carried. We will now move to vote on NDP 8 as amended, which nullifies PV 11 and Liberal 2. So, Madam Clerk, I'll ask you to call the vote on NDP 8 as amended.
Mr. Long.
Support.
Madame Martinez Ferrara.
Oui.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzmaricek.
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen.
We.
Ms. Gray.
Support.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferrari.
Yes.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
Oui.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
That's 11 yeas, 0 nays.
NDP 8 moved unanimously as amended. Shall Clause 14 carry? Carried? Shall Clause 14 carry as amended? Carried. The preamble. PV 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PV 12 states that Bill C-22 in the preamble be amended, A, by replacing lines 1 and 2 on page 1 with the following, whereas persons with disabilities are more likely to live in poverty than PER, and B, by replacing in the French version lines 4 on page 1 with the following, les personnes qui ne sont pas. What this amendment would do is remove the word working age, seeking to move the Canada Disability Benefit to apply to all persons with disabilities. Poverty doesn't end for a person with a disability after the age of 65, and neither should the Canada Disability Benefit. 10% of Canadians with severe disabilities over the age of 65 live in poverty. We heard this supported by many organizations, including a joint letter by the Citizens for Public Justice and the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get to a discussion, I have a ruling on this. Madame Chabot.
Well, it was a question. It seems that it's the same amendment that was put forward in previous sections, so I'm wondering if there's some inconsistency here or if we're voting on the same thing. But if we will vote, I will re-vote in the same manner.
PV 12 is inadmissible as no amendment to the bill to justify amending the preamble has been adopted. The amendment seeks to make a substantive modification by removing elements to the preamble linked to the notion of working age. As House of Commons Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition, page 774 states, in the case of a bill that has been referred to committee after second reading, a substantive amendment to the preamble is admissible only if it is rendered necessary by amendments made to the bill. In addition, an amendment to the preamble is in order when its purpose is to clarify it or to ensure uniformity of the English and French versions. In the opinion of the Chair, the proposed amendment is substantive and is therefore inadmissible. That is my ruling. So PV 12 is ruled inadmissible. PV 13 amendment is deemed moved pursuant to the routine motion adopted by the committee. Mr. Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Given your ruling, I assume the same will apply to PV 13. I'll take the 30 seconds or so to simply read it into the record to recognize, this was requested by groups like the Canadian Human Rights Commission. It would change that Bill C-22 in the preamble be amended by adding after line 20 on page 1 the following, whereas Canada, as a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, is committed to ensuring an adequate standard of living and social protection for persons with disabilities and their families, especially those living in poverty. Whereas Canada, as a signatory to the International Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, has undertaken to ensure the realization of the right of every person to an adequate standard of living. Thank you.
PV 13 is admissible because of an earlier decision of the committee. It is admissible. So open discussion on PV 13. Seeing no discussion, then I will call a vote on PV 13.
Mr. Long.
No.
Madame Martinez-Ferrara.
No.
Mr. Collins.
Opposed.
Mr. Kazmierczak. No. Mr. Van Bynen.
No.
Ms. Gray.
Support.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferrari.
Support.
Mr. Aitchison.
Why?
Madame Chabot.
Yes.
Ms. Cirillo.
No.
That is 5 yeas, 6 nays.
PV 13 is defeated. When you say PV 14, is Okay, PV 14 is deemed moved pursuant to the motion. Mr. Maurice?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the third and last attempt to improve the preamble. Specifically, it says that Bill C-22 in the preamble be amended by adding after line 8 on page 2 the following: whereas the Government of Canada recognizes that persons with disabilities must be given meaningful opportunities to collaborate in the development and design of regulations made under this Act. What this would do is go further than the existing text, specifically naming that the opportunities must be meaningful and specifying that that collaboration must be in the design of regulations. This follows and aligns with previous amendment, PV 9, that puts this into the bill. And so this would better align the preamble with the amended bill. And again, as I mentioned earlier, organizations like March of Dimes, Disability Without Poverty, and many, many others called for this level of engagement specifically in the regulations. Thank you.
PV 14 is admissible. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, then, Madam Clerk, we'll call a vote on PV 14.
Voters on PV 14. Mr. Long.
No.
Madam Martinez Ferrara.
No.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Kazmierczak.
No.
Mr. Van Bynen.
No.
Ms. Gray.
Yes.
Ms. Falk.
Yes.
Ms. Ferreri.
Support.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
Madame Chabot.
Oui.
Ms. Cirillo.
Nope.
That's 5 yeas, 6 nays.
PV 14 is defeated. Shall the preamble carry? Carried. Shall the short title carry? Carried. Shall the title carry? Carried. Shall the bill as amended carry? Carried. Shall the chair report the bill as amended to the House? Shall the committee order a reprint of the bill as amended for the use of the House at report stage? Agreed. That concludes the clause by clause. I will go to Madame Zarilla, the clause by clause review of a very important piece of legislation, C-22. Thank you, committee members, for your contributions from all sides, and departmental staff, and the Legislative Council up here for navigating me correctly through this process. We still have time in the committee. I'll go to Madame Zarrillo. Have your hand up, Madame Zarrillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have a motion that I want to bring to the floor. But before that, there are still 3 sitting days left in this session. So could we get an idea, the committee get an idea of if this report can go right away to the House? Like, what's the timeline for that? The bill, sorry, yeah.
The bill, the earliest would be tomorrow. Madam Clerk, is it tomorrow? Wait now.
It depends. We are several bills that are being adopted today, so everybody wants to report tomorrow. So it depends on how complicated the other bills are.
Well, it's ready now. It will depend on the calendar of the House that I don't control. But the committee has dispensed of its work with the report, with the bill, and so it'll be go into the priority of the House schedule.
Okay, so we can expect to see it tomorrow. Possible. Okay, so I'll take that as a yes. So I have a motion here for the committee that I shared.
But I don't make that decision, as long as we're clear on that.
I have a motion here that I just want to share. I did share it with my colleagues. at the end of last week, that the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities call upon the government to explore an immediate emergency relief benefit for persons with disabilities due to the rising cost of food and housing. And I really would like to see the government look at that seriously and look at options, because we know that this bill is needed immediately, and it will take some time to get those regulations in place. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The motion is in order. Discussion? Madame Zerlo, could you clarification? You want to present this to the House?
Do I want to present it to the House? Yes, please.
I'm just looking for clarification in terms of, this is a statement from the committee that will be presented as a motion if it's adopted to be put in the minutes, or is there, you're calling upon the House to do an action?
I'm calling on the House to do an action.
To present this as a report before the committee.
That's it, yes, exactly. Similar to what we did on our codifying.
Okay. Ms. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a copy of this motion in writing?
Yes, it was circulated to all committee members.
I can recirculate it.
Yeah, the clerk will recirculate it. It was circulated last week. No, actually, yeah.
That was just it, yeah. So we're just looking. The clerk's looking.
Yeah, it was on December 9th. It's been in for a while. You certainly can. The committee will suspend for a few moments while committee members get a chance to analyze the motion, and this will be the third break for Madame Chabot. Resume. We suspended at the request of Ms. Gray for some consideration on the motion of Ms. Zerillo. You had the floor, Ms. Gray, when you suspended. Is there anything you want, or do we?
Mr. Chair, we're just a little unclear as to how this will affect the calendar. We certainly wouldn't want to do anything to delay the legislation that we've just been working on. So, thank you.
It shouldn't. No, it would not delay the calendar. It's not request a study. It's simply, if adopted, this request would simply be presented to the government by the committee. Ms. Gray and then Madame Zerillo.
Mr. Chair, I was referring to the calendar of the House, not necessarily of the committee. Right, just for clarification. Thank you.
Point. It shouldn't. No. No, it would not impact the calendar of the House. Madame Chabot, you had your hand up? No? Madame Zerillo, did you? You have it now?
Oui,
That's
oui,
your last
moi, tout
chance.
ce que je voulais dire, c'est...
Yes, all I wanted to say that the motion says to explore the possibility, so the government will decide.
Ça sera soumis à la...
And it will be in the House if that happens.
Any further discussion or debate on the motion put to the committee by Madame Zerillo? Does everybody have that? If there's no further discussion, I will call a vote on the motion of Madame Zerillo. You have it before you. Madam Clerk?
The vote is on the motion of Ms. Zerillo.
Do you adopt the motion or defeat the motion?
Mr. Long.
No.
Madame Martinez Ferreira.
No.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Kazmierczak.
No.
Mr. Van Bynen.
No.
Ms. Gray.
Abstain.
Ms. Falk.
Abstain.
Ms. Ferreri.
Abstain.
Mr. Aitchison.
I guess I'm abstaining too.
Madame Chabot.
Pour?
Ms. Zerillo.
Yes.
That's 2 yeas, 5 nays.
The motion has been defeated. Before we go, I just want to advise the witnesses that you're okay to go. Sorry, I should have did that a little earlier, but I seen you were totally captured with the drama going on in the committee. So again, thank you for coming and providing answers to the committee members as we were doing clause by clause of Bill C-22. It's most appreciated. Thank you. Do you have your hand up, Madame Zerillo?
Mr. Chair, that I distributed to the committee on Friday last week.
Oh, you're full of motions.
I
Okay.
am. And so this is in relation to care economy labor shortages study that we began at the beginning of this year in March. And the motion reads that in relation to its study of labor shortages, working conditions, and the care economy, the committee make time to finalize the report on the care economy labor shortages no later than December 14th, 2022, and that the report be tabled in the House of Commons immediately thereafter on the first available sitting day. And Mr. Chair, with the crisis that we are seeing right now in the healthcare system, we have a lot of good testimony that I'd like to get in the hands of the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Zerillo. Everybody has the notice of motion, and version 2 has been finalized. On the yes, and all committee members have it. Madame Chabot, you had your hand up. Madame Chabot?
Moi, j'ai une question que
Well, I have a question that I'd like to clarify right now. The first thing is, do we have a committee meeting tomorrow? I think you could probably tell us the answer to that question, because we don't know what we're doing tomorrow. There's no calendar for that. The proposal is asking that we do this tomorrow. Monday, last week we weren't able to do the work that we wanted to complete the work we had before us. So whether we pass this now or in January, I don't think that will change anything in that situation.
Well, currently we have a meeting is scheduled on this regular calendar unless something occurs in the House that changes that. Well, yes, Mr. Kuzmierczak?
Just wanted to speak to the motion.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a second to speak to this motion. The study that MP Zerillo has brought forward to this committee is an important study. It's an incredibly timely study. Anything that we can do to accelerate us tabling that in the House of Commons, we would absolutely support. It's not only a timely study, but when MP Zerillo brought it forward back in March of this year, I would even venture to say that it was very prophetic, not only timely but prophetic in terms of the situation that we're facing right now in our healthcare system. And so, wholeheartedly, without any reservation, I will be and we will be supporting this motion to make sure that we table this report or report this back to the House as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Madame Chabot?
I recall that for our schedule tomorrow, I'm not going to oppose this, but what I want to explain is that if we pass it now or when we come back in January, that the world will continue to turn. It's not this report that's going to solve the problems we have in healthcare. But I wouldn't disagree. But what was planned for tomorrow was the Minister of Families. And first of all, because of what happened yesterday with work coming to a halt, that's one thing. So our schedule was already changed so that we move over onto C-22. So yesterday's agenda that we ended up doing today, but tomorrow I want to make sure that what's on the schedule will be as it was confirmed, and that we'll keep the fact that we are going to receive the Minister for Families.
Yes, Madame Chabot, the committee's calendar for tomorrow scheduled the Minister of Employment and the Minister of Families. But the adoption of this motion would not interfere with that because it's a, am I correct, Clerk? Just a clarification, Madame Chabot. Yes, if this motion was adopted by the committee, it would have to fit in tomorrow's calendar within the timeline. So that one would have to take precedent over the other. As we're currently scheduled, there's two ministers to appear before the committee tomorrow, should the committee meet, and I have no direction on what's going to take place in the House tomorrow. So. But if the motion of Madame Zerillo is adopted by the committee, then it would have to fit in the calendar. Madame Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we had met as a committee to look at what our priorities were. And so, out of respect also for the minister's schedule, if those are confirmed for Wednesday, out of respect for their schedule, we should respect that and continue with that meeting that is scheduled, unless our member here is asking for an additional meeting on Wednesday or a lengthier meeting. Maybe perhaps she can clarify that. But as it is, it sounds like we have a scheduled meeting already on Wednesday.
Yes, we do. Any clarification required? We currently have before Madame Chabot.
Well, I just want to ensure that if I vote for this, it doesn't mean that it will take precedence on our plans for tomorrow. So if that is on top of, if we lengthen the meeting time, but I don't want that it take precedence over the calendar that we had, 1 hour with each minister. So I understand that if we adopt this, it means that our work will be extended tomorrow evening.
If the motion of Madame Cirillo is adopted by the committee, then it will have to be added to tomorrow's meeting. That means we'll have to either shorten the timeline for the ministers or add additional time to the meeting. It will not take precedent. It will add to the meeting if the committee agrees to it, or it will shorten the timeline of the minister's appearance. I have Ms. Falk. You have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. So just for clarification, does the clerk know that resources are available tomorrow to extend the meeting?
No.
So then how do we know that our meeting would be extended?
Well, we would check on that. It would be, if the committee voted on that, it doesn't mean that we would carry on with it, Ms. Falk. We'd have to check on that. If resources were available like today, then we could extend, but the committee controls its own destiny by majority. Cirillo. Ms. Gray?
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Just going back to the fact that we had agreed, that we would have the ministers here for a certain amount of time, and that was agreed to. And so, we wouldn't want to go back on what we all had agreed to for how long the ministers are here when they're coming to speak to us about the supplementary estimates. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The committee members, it's your decision. I'm in the hands of the committee for how it wants to proceed. You have a motion of Madame Cirillo. If it is adopted, then it will have to fit into the schedule tomorrow evening, into a schedule that we're not sure of, because I do not know the calendar of the House tomorrow. But as we're currently scheduled, the committee is scheduled to meet tomorrow for 2 hours, and 2 ministers will appear. If I see Mr. Van Bynen?
Sensitive? Is there a timeline that we're required to deal with those?
The estimates? No, the timeline has gone by.
Oh, so
the timeline was on December the 8th, but the committee can still request the ministers to appear to speak to them, but there's no vote required on them since the timeline has gone by. Ms. Kuzmarchek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. Are we able to begin tomorrow with the report so that we're able to get that taken care of fairly quickly? I mean, we all have the report, as I understand it, the second draft. We've pretty much agreed on the substance of it the last couple meetings that we've had, and so this is something that we could take care of fairly quickly.
Choose to do as the committee chooses to do by majority. You have a motion on the floor from Madame Zerillo. If you adopt it and you want to adopt it by giving it precedence for tomorrow's meeting, it'll be the first priority. It'll be the first agenda item of the committee, should the committee sit. So I mean, I'm in the hands of the committee. The committee will, by majority, makes that decision. Madame Shabat and then Madame Zerillo.
Vous allez appeler le vote bientôt.
Well, you're putting the question soon, I hope. I will disagree if it has precedence. I don't agree that it should take precedence if there's a committee tomorrow. It should be, as on the calendar, the appearance of the two ministers.
Okay, Madame Zerillo, and then we're going to proceed to a vote because we are running out of time. Madame Zerillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And when we agreed that the ministers was coming, it was for the estimates. And what we've heard now is that we've missed the window for the estimates. So now we're just having ministers here, which I agree with. In fact, we had invited the Minister of Employment and Social Development and Inclusion, Disability Inclusion, to come here. I think it was last Monday, and the minister didn't come. So I definitely want to see the ministers. At the same time, this is work that the committee needs that the committee's been working on for a long time, and I think that there's an opportunity. And today, we said we were going for 3 hours, and we're going an hour less, so I think there maybe is opportunity for us to find some additional resources to get that work off out of this committee, and also to see the ministers at the same time. Thank you.
Before I go to Ms. Gray, the ministers are appearing on the supplementaries. There's just no requirement for a vote because of the timeline, which is the rules of the House. Ms. Gray?
Mr. Chair, that is exactly what I was going to say. So, thank you.
So what's the wishes of the committee? Seeing no further discussion, you have the notice of motion from Madame Zerillo. It has not been amended. So seeing no further discussion, then I will proceed to a call of a vote on the motion of Madame Zerillo. Madam.
Just get a clarification then on what the meaning of the motion then is in terms of the order of dealing with of this matter and then the appearance tomorrow. Should this pass, if you can just explain what that means.
Yeah, well, by passing it doesn't prioritize it.
No, it's just a motion to have it before
tomorrow
on the 14th. It's up to the committee to decide how this goes on.
Well, it's simply as it is. It is a motion, but it does not change the calendar for tomorrow unless the committee moves to change the calendar for tomorrow that is already agreed to.
Mr. Chair, may I introduce a friendly amendment that we give precedence to the care economy report in tomorrow's dealings so that we can address it right off the bat and hopefully conclude it in a timely fashion and then move on to the next proceedings, which I have every confidence in the world we're going to be able to get this out of committee very quickly.
Is everybody clear of the amendment to Madame Zerillo's motion? Do you want to restate that clearly to the committee?
Yes, the amendment is simply that in order of preference for...
if the motion is adopted.
If the motion is adopted, the order of preference
will be the consideration of version 2, the adoption of version 2 of the labor shortage study by the committee.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any further clarification on the amendment of Mr. Kuzmirchuk? Seeing no discussion, we'll call a vote on the amendment of Mr. Kuzmirchuk, which will give priority at tomorrow's meeting. Pardon? Yeah, it has to be an amendment.
The amendment, Mr. Kuzmirchuk, to my understanding, it will be the first item of priority on the agenda for tomorrow. Mr. Long.
Support.
Madame Martinez Ferreira.
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
It's Eric, say. Yes.
Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Yes.
Ms. Gray.
Oppose.
Ms. Falk.
No.
Ms. Ferreri.
Oppose.
Mr. Aitchison.
No.
Madame Chabot.
No.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
That's 6 yeas, 5 nays.
The amendment is carried. Now seeing no further discussion on the motion as amended. Madam Clerk, call the vote. Madame
Faut pas
Chabot, you want the
adopter
floor?
l'amendement tel.
Don't we have to vote on the motion as amended?
So seeing no discussion, I'll call a vote on the motion of Madame Cirillo as amended.
Mr. Long.
Support.
Madame Martinez Ferreira.
Oui.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Support.
Mr. Van Bynen. Ms. Gray.
Oppose.
Ms. Falk.
No.
Ms. Ferreri.
No.
Mr. Aitchison.
Nope.
Madame Chabot.
No.
Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
That's 6 yeas, 5 nays.
Motion carried. Seeing no further business before the committee, is it a pleasure of the committee to adjourn? Committee is adjourned.